Hi, I'm Beth Taylor. Welcome to the Sampson Family YMCA Teaching Kitchen. Today we're going to talk about a whole grain, which is barley. So barley is a lovely little seed from the barley grasses that we're going to cook with today. It is a whole grain, so it's going to be high in fiber. You're going to get a lot of great vitamins with that, including B1 and some minerals like phosphorus, magnesium, and niacin. So it's a nice little powerhouse. Plus, eating whole grains is going to make you feel more full and satisfied. So that's great. So we're going to throw in some veg with it today. Some broccoli and grape tomatoes. And you know, the more colors of vegetables that we have in our dishes, the more healthy it's going to be. We want to eat the rainbow all the time. So just to finish up our mise en place, getting everything ready for our recipe, which is always a good idea to do before you start cooking. I've cut the broccoli up into little florets. I've diced some shallot. And we're going to half the grape tomatoes in this fun cooking trick for halving grape tomatoes. I have it between two plates. So I have this plate right side up. And I'm going to take a serrated knife and cut through these tomatoes and cut them all in half at once. They're not going to be perfect. However, it's a big time saver. Wanting to come out. Okay, there we go. So we have all our tomatoes halved at once. And these are some I did earlier. Have those ready to go into our dish. Also going to prep some garlic, peeling it first. I just took the end off. Well, that's not wanting to come, so we'll use our old smashing technique. Get the rest of that peel off. And we're going to slice it nicely. There's the peel coming for me. Run our knife through it and slice it. Always with slicing vegetables, you want to have your hands in the bear claw position, which tucks your fingernails underneath and keeps your fingertips safe from the blade of the knife. And then you keep moving back as you go through the veg. So we're just going to put our non-dominant hand on top of the knife to guide it to further mince the garlic. So this is just like a 1-minute job. Not necessary. It's fun to have a garlic press, but not necessary if you don't have one in your kitchen. So we have all that prepped and ready to go. So we're going to start with 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil into our hot pan. I've had this warming for us. You can see the oil moving around. Oh, when it's fragrant, you want to hit it before the oil starts to melt. So you can see it start to shimmer, and you can smell the olive oil. So we want to get our veg in there right away, which is going to be our shallot first, chopped shallot. And we just want that to get translucent. Move it around a little bit, not necessarily get any color on it. Smelling good. Then chew that. After that goes for a few minutes and it's more translucent, we are going to add our broccoli. There we go. This will be a little better. That's going to turn a nice green. Now, I tested this recipe out for us ahead of time, like I do. And the original recipe called for us, once you cook the broccoli down for a few minutes and add the tomatoes, etc., to put the broth in and the barley, all of that, and cook it all together for a long time, 35 to 40 minutes until the broccoli is cooked. That yielded some pretty gray-looking broccoli and some mushy, mushy, mushy tomatoes. I like my vegetables to be crisp and bright and a little tooth to them, not necessarily smashed and gray like that. So we're gonna change it up, and the way I've written it, that you'll be able to get on the recipe card at your branch, will acknowledge this difference in the original recipe. So I can see some beautiful color coming up on that green. I'm gonna add the half cherry tomatoes and cook that down a little bit. I'll let that go. If you want to speed this up a tiny bit, you could add a little bit of our stock to it, just a little bit, and put the lid on for a minute or so. We're going to do that. So I'm using a jarred vegetable stock. It's really super easy to make vegetable stock and make it from the scraps that you have in your kitchen. You just save your vegetable scraps. Oh, hold it up. I'm so sorry. Yeah, thank you. My witty sidekick Amy told me to hold it up. This is just canned from the or from a box from the grocery store. But if you save vegetable scraps, put a bay leaf in them and some peppercorn, and cover them with water, like until you get a whole stock pot full. Cover them with water and let them go on a low simmer for about an hour on your stove. You have your own homemade vegetable stock. The flavor's kind of different every time, depending on the scraps you put in, but it's delicious. I usually have it on hand frozen, and I do notice a difference using the box versus that. Your recipes just have much more depth of flavor. But today didn't have any, so we're using, use what you have, but it's just something to do on a rainy day. Get that vegetable stock going. Your house will smell good too. Okay. Last thing I'm going to do before we remove this veg mixture is throw my garlic in. I made kind of a spot in the middle to throw that in. Don't want to cook it too long because it will burn very easily. Put my fire a little high here. I'm going to turn that down a little. Okay. So this is great. We have a little color on the tomato and broccoli, and we've softened them a little bit, but they are not mushy. So I'm going to remove all of that to a pan, and this we just keep on the side until everything is done. You see we have some color on the bottom of the pan, but we're not going to panic about that. It's okay. I'm going to put the barley in. Just kind of stir that around and toast it for a minute or so. It's picking up some of the onions and things that were stuck to the bottom. That's okay. It can mix in with there. And then we're going to slowly start adding the veg stock. Now the veg stock is going to do something that we call deglazing the pan. So all of the brown stuff that's left on the bottom is flavor. So that'll start lifting some of that up. Let me grab a wooden spoon. That helps that process a little more. My apologies for not having one at the ready. And you just want to stir and scrape that brown up from the bottom. You'll be appreciating this later when you go to clean it. But that's going to pick up all that nice caramelized veg flavor from the bottom of the pot. I'm going to use the full 4 cups in the recipe because my pan was pretty hot and we probably lost some to evaporation. Now, if you are using a homemade stock, you may not want to salt, or you may want to salt it if you didn't salt it while you were making it. This was a commercially produced stock. I am not, because that has a high level of sodium, I'm not going to salt anymore. Excuse me, but I am going to pepper. Add some nice fresh ground pepper. Other thing to add at this point, dried herbs. So we have about 1.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning that goes in. Dry herbs you usually add at the beginning of a recipe, fresh towards the end. If you added fresh at the beginning, they would all give off too much of their flavor and you wouldn't be tasting it. But the dry herbs are going to reconstitute, rehydrate, and then they're going to give off some nice flavor into your stock. Okay, so we have this going. We're going to bring it to a simmer. And then turn it down to a low to medium heat, cover it, and it goes for about 35 to 40 minutes. towards the end of the cooking time, like say maybe at the 30, 35-minute mark, you're going to reincorporate your veg into it, stir that in, and then when you serve it, we're going to top it with some lovely feta cheese crumbles. So that's the dish. Thank you for joining us in the Teaching Kitchen, and keep on cooking those healthy grains.